Jerry Rice Jr. Being the son of the greatest wide receiver in NFL history sounds like a golden ticket, but for Jerry Rice Jr., it quickly became a burden. He played at UCLA and later transferred to UNLV in search of more playing time, flashing moments of clean route running and reliable hands. But he lacked the overwhelming speed, size, and explosion that made his dad the GOAT. At 5'11" and 185 pounds, his athletic testing numbers didn't turn many NFL heads, and scouts often said he looked more like a dependable college starter than a future pro. Still, the name Rice carried weight, and in 2014, he got an invite to the 49ers rookie minicamp, the very team where his father became a legend. He also landed a short contract with Washington, but he never made it out of camp. A stint with the Montreal Alouettes in the CFL brought more of the same. Brief flashes with no lasting success. Eventually, Jerry Jr. walked away from football entirely, pivoting into tech sales and later entrepreneurship. The cruel reality is that the Rice name opened doors, but it couldn't keep them open. He learned the hard truth. You can't inherit the GOAT gene. And as his football dreams faded, the question became whether he'd ever escape his father's towering shadow, because the world always expected more from a Rice. Deion Sanders Jr. When your dad is prime time, the spotlight never leaves. And for Deion Sanders Jr., that spotlight often burned too bright. Playing wide receiver and returner at SMU, he had agility and some quickness, but inconsistency and off-field distractions kept him from ever becoming a true star. His production in college was modest, and when it came time for the NFL draft process, there were no combine invites, no pro day hype, and no training camp offers. Unlike his father, he lacked the game-breaking instincts and raw athletic dominance that defined a Hall of Fame career. But Deion Jr. didn't waste time chasing a dream that wasn't going to happen. Instead, he built something of his own. He launched a lifestyle brand called Well Off Forever, mixing fashion, entertainment, and content creation. The gamble paid off as he grew a following on YouTube and social media. Today, he documents behind-the-scenes life with the Colorado Buffaloes, where his dad coaches and his younger brother Shedeur plays quarterback. The world may have expected him to follow his father onto NFL fields, but instead, he carved out his own lane. He never wore the NFL shield, but he built an identity not as a failed athlete, but as a successful entrepreneur. And in a way, that makes his story just as fascinating. Marcus Vick. Few names in college football once carried as much hype as Marcus Vick. The younger brother of superstar quarterback Michael Vick arrived at Virginia Tech with sky-high expectations. He had the speed, the arm, and the dual threat potential to be the next great Hokie quarterback. For a while, he delivered flashes that looked like a mirror image of his brother. But off the field, Marcus could not stay out of trouble. Suspensions piled up for everything from underage drinking to reckless behavior. And then came the moment that defined his career. In the 2006 Gator Bowl, he stomped on the leg of a Louisville defender in plain view of national television cameras. Just days later, Virginia Tech dismissed him from the team, ending his college career in disgrace. He went undrafted, and though the Miami Dolphins briefly signed him, it was as a wide receiver, not a quarterback. He played in only one NFL game, recording no stats before fading completely. From there, his name became tied more to legal headlines than football highlights, with arrests ranging from DUI to resisting arrest. Marcus had the raw gifts to be special, but his downfall showed how quickly talent can be wasted when discipline is missing. He was proof that sometimes the last name is enough to give you a shot, but not enough to save you from yourself. Nate Montana. When your father is Joe Montana, the weight of expectation never really goes away. Nate Montana began his college career at Notre Dame, the same cathedral where his dad became a legend. But his path through the sport was defined more by transfers than touchdowns. After redshirting his first year, Nate moved to Pasadena City College to find playing time, returned to Notre Dame, and then transferred again to the University of Montana. For the first time, he earned meaningful snaps, but his stats told the story. Just 4 touchdowns to 5 interceptions in 2011. Scouts quickly realized he wasn't his father. After college, he went undrafted, and though the 49ers brought him in for a tryout, there was no roster spot waiting. His career ended before it began. What stung even more was that his last name meant doors would always open, but his play couldn't keep them from closing just as fast. Nate's story is less about failure and more about the impossible comparison. No matter what he did, he would always be measured against the quarterback many consider the greatest of all time, and that bar proved unreachable. But what happens when another famous son tries to carry his father's legacy with raw talent but constant chaos? Duron Carter. Duron Carter had the size, swagger, and bloodline to turn heads the moment he stepped on a field. As the son of Hall of Fame wideout Chris Carter, people expected highlight catches and dominance. At times, Duron delivered exactly that, but he couldn't escape the same problem that haunted him at every stop. lack of consistency. He started at Ohio State, just like his dad, but academic problems cut his career short. From there, he bounced around to junior college in Alabama, then Florida Atlantic, never settling long enough to establish himself. Despite the shaky resume, his natural ability was enough to earn NFL looks. He bounced from the Vikings to the Colts and a couple of other training camp rosters, but he never made a regular season appearance. It was in the CFL where Duran finally found a stage big enough for his talent and personality. He made circus catches that went viral and earned a reputation as one of the league's most entertaining players. But it got messy. He once shoulder bumped an opposing coach after a touchdown, sparking a sideline brawl that overshadowed the play itself. Duran's career became the definition of unfulfilled potential, bright flashes of brilliance, followed by drama and missed opportunities. And if you think that's wild, it gets crazier when you hear how another legacy quarterback struggled even worse: Dylan Favre. Dylan Favre carried the famous last name into college football, but unlike his uncle Brett, the path was filled with detours and disappointment. Dylan was a promising dual-threat quarterback out of high school, earning a scholarship at Mississippi State. But instead of following in his uncle's footsteps as a gunslinger who lit up defenses, Dylan spent most of his time on the bench. He redshirted, then transferred to Pearl River Community College in search of opportunity. He showed flashes of talent there, enough to keep his dream alive, but his production wasn't overwhelming. His journey continued with another transfer, this time to Tennessee Martin, a small FCS school far removed from the spotlight. Despite multiple chances, Dylan never put together the kind of season that would attract serious NFL attention. By the time his college career wrapped up, there were no scouts calling, no workouts scheduled, and no combine invite. He went undrafted and unsigned, fading from football before most people even realized his story had started. Dylan Favre's legacy isn't about scandal or tragedy, but about the quiet reality that a famous name doesn't guarantee greatness. He showed how even with pedigree and flashes of skill, sometimes the NFL dream just never materializes. But the next player's story takes an even darker turn that shocked fans everywhere. Ray Lewis III. With a father like Ray Lewis, one of the most feared linebackers in NFL history, the pressure on Ray Lewis III was enormous. In high school, he showed real promise as both a running back and a defensive back, racking up over 1,300 rushing yards and 18 touchdowns his senior year. Recruiters took notice, and he earned a spot at his father's alma mater, the University of Miami, but he never played a snap there. After redshirting his first year, he transferred to Coastal Carolina looking for a fresh start, only to find limited playing time and little impact. Off the field, things began to spiral. In 2016, he was arrested on serious charges that were later dropped, but the damage to his football career was already done. He faded from the game entirely, and reports later pointed to struggles with mental health and substance use. Tragically, in 2023, Ray Lewis III passed away at just 28 years old, with authorities citing a lethal mix of drugs in his system. His story is one of the most heartbreaking of all. The son of a legend who carried heavy expectations, but never found his footing in the game or in life. And if that sounds tough, wait until you hear about a quarterback whose career was ended not by scandal, but by a life-threatening injury. But first, only cool people are subscribed to this channel, so hit that subscribe button before we go any further. Chris Sims. Chris Sims grew up in the shadow of his father Phil, a Super Bowl winning quarterback for the Giants, but he was determined to carve his own identity. At Texas, Sims entered one of the most scrutinized quarterback battles of the early 2000s, competing with fan favorite Major Applewhite. While he had the physical tools, tall frame, strong arm, his inconsistency in big games left fans divided. Still, he had enough upside for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to draft him in 2003. After learning behind veterans, he got his shot in 2005, leading Tampa to the playoffs and throwing for over 2,000 yards in just 10 starts. For a moment, it looked like he could be the next long-term starter. But then, disaster struck. In a 2006 game against the Carolina Panthers, Sims took repeated hits to the midsection. He finished the game, but was later rushed to the hospital, where doctors had to remove his spleen in an emergency procedure. The injury nearly cost him his life and shattered his career. He attempted a comeback, spending brief stints with the Titans and Broncos, but he was never the same player. Sims' story is a reminder that not all careers end with scandal or failure. Sometimes it's one brutal twist of fate that changes everything. But speaking of legacies, the next player carried one of the most famous names in football history, yet still couldn't escape being overshadowed. Casey Matthews. The Matthews family tree might be the greatest in NFL history, with Bruce Matthews in the Hall of Fame, Clay Matthews Jr. as a 4-time Pro Bowler, and Clay Matthews as a 6-time Pro Bowler and Super Bowl champion. Casey Matthews was supposed to carry that tradition forward. He was a standout linebacker at Oregon, even helping lead them to the 2010 National Championship game. His instincts and leadership impressed scouts enough for the Philadelphia Eagles to draft him in the 4th round in 2011. Right away, he was named the starting middle linebacker as a rookie, but the position proved overwhelming. He struggled in coverage, missed tackles, and was quickly demoted. Over 4 seasons in Philadelphia, he became more of a rotational player and special teamer. His production peaked at 66 tackles in a season, but he never reached the Pro Bowl level his family was known for. In 2015, he signed with the Minnesota Vikings, hoping for a fresh start, but a hip injury landed him on injured reserve before he ever played a snap. That ended his NFL career. Casey's story shows that even with one of the strongest bloodlines in football, the game can be unforgiving. And while he struggled to live up to his last name, another legacy safety actually managed to stick around longer, though not without his own struggles. Anthony Dorsett Jr. When your father is Tony Dorsett, a Heisman winner, Super Bowl champion, and Hall of Famer with over 12,000 rushing yards, the expectations are crushing. But Anthony Dorsett Jr. didn't follow his dad into the offensive backfield. Instead, he carved his own lane as a defensive back. Coming out of the University of Texas, he was drafted in the 6th round of the 1996 draft by the Houston Oilers, who would soon become the Tennessee Titans. His early years were quiet, but he grew into a reliable starter by 1999, just in time to help the Titans reach Super Bowl 34, where they came up a single yard short against the Rams. He later joined the Raiders, where he started another Super Bowl, though that ended in another loss, this time to Tampa Bay. On paper, 2 Super Bowl appearances sound impressive, but Dorsett never made a Pro Bowl and finished his career with just 3 interceptions and 1 sack. His name carried him into the league, and his work ethic kept him there for 8 years, but he never came close to living up to his father's legacy. And while Anthony's career felt steady if unspectacular, another Hall of Famer's son had a different experience, one that showed early promise but quickly faded. Ryan Nece. As the son of Hall of Fame safety Ronnie Lott, Ryan Nece entered football with some of the heaviest expectations possible. Lott was famous for his bone-crushing hits and unmatched intensity, and fans wondered if Nece could bring that same fire. Unlike many legacy players, Nece wasn't a blue-chip recruit. He walked on at UCLA, fought for his spot, and by his senior year, he was team captain and led the Bruins in tackles. That grit caught the attention of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who signed him as an undrafted free agent in 2002. And here's where his story takes a twist. Nece wasn't just a roster filler. He carved out a key role on special teams and even started games as a linebacker. As a rookie, he won a Super Bowl with Tampa under John Gruden, proving he could hold his own in the NFL. Across 6 seasons split between the Bucs and the Lions, he racked up 222 tackles, 1 sack, and a reputation as a dependable role player. His career wasn't flashy, and it didn't match his father's Hall of Fame dominance. But compared to other Nepo baby stories, Nece overachieved. Still, his career ended quietly, and he faded into retirement. But while Ryan's story was about quiet persistence, the next player became known for falling short on the biggest stage, and then being mocked for it. Jarrett Payton. Being the son of Walter Payton, one of the greatest running backs ever, is a gift and a curse. Jarrett Payton carried that famous last name into the University of Miami, a program already stacked with NFL talent. For most of his college career, he lived in the shadow of stars like Clinton Portis and Willis McGahee, but in his senior year, he finally got his chance. He rushed for over 1,000 yards, including an MVP performance in the 2004 Orange Bowl, a moment that looked like the start of something big, but the NFL wasn't convinced. Jarrett went undrafted and signed with the Tennessee Titans, only to spend his time buried on the practice squad. When his NFL shot fizzled, he turned north to the CFL with the Montreal Alouettes, where he flashed for 1 season but never emerged as a star. He even tried to reignite his career with the Chicago Bears, his father's old team, but never cracked the roster. Jarrett Payton never lived up to the Sweetness legacy, but he didn't let that define him. He later built a career as a media personality in Chicago, where his father's memory still looms large. His story is a reminder that the weight of a legendary last name can be heavier than pads themselves. And if Jarrett's story feels heavy, the next one shows how impossible it can be when your father's one of the greatest running backs of all time and fans expect magic. Barry J. Sanders. Barry J. Sanders inherited one of the most electrifying names in football, but not the same career path. Instead of following his dad to Oklahoma State, Barry J chose Stanford, where he spent years stuck behind future NFL superstar Christian McCaffrey. Despite flashes of quickness and agility, he never got consistent playing time and finished his Stanford career with just 315 yards and 4 touchdowns. In 2016, he transferred to Oklahoma State as a graduate student, hoping to write a redemption story in the same uniform his dad once made legendary. Fans thought it might be the perfect full circle moment, but the fairy tale never came true. He appeared in 13 games, yet only managed 93 rushing yards all season. After college, Barry J didn't even attempt to pursue a pro career. Instead, he pivoted toward the business world, working in marketing with EA Sports. His story doesn't involve scandal or tragedy. It's about the crushing reality of impossible comparisons. When your dad is the most elusive runner in history, every step you take feels judged. Barry J didn't fail in life, but he could never escape the shadow of Barry Sanders. And while his journey quietly ended, the next player's story took a far darker path, filled with scandal and shocking headlines. Kellen Winslow. Kellen Winslow was once billed as the next great tight end, the son of Hall of Famer Kellen Winslow Sr. and a college star at Miami. He was drafted 6th overall by the Cleveland Browns in 2004, and the expectations were sky high. But from the start, things unraveled. Just 2 games into his rookie year, he broke his fibula. The following offseason, he destroyed his knee in a motorcycle accident while performing tricks in a parking lot, something forbidden in his contract. The Browns withheld pay and his relationship with the team soured. When he returned, he showed glimpses of brilliance, including a Pro Bowl season in 2007, but it never lasted. Locker room clashes, public disputes with doctors, and constant injuries kept him from reaching the elite level he once promised. As his career faded with stops in Tampa, New England, and the Jets, his off-field behavior spiraled even further. Over time, his name became connected to disturbing accusations and eventually criminal convictions that shocked fans who remembered his college dominance. Winslow went from being called the greatest tight end ever by himself to becoming one of the league's most infamous cautionary tales. His downfall is one of the most dramatic examples of a Nepo baby imploding under pressure and poor decisions. And if you think that's shocking, the final story is one of a linebacker who entered the NFL with hype, only to become remembered more for jokes than for plays. Bobby Carpenter. Bobby Carpenter looked like a can't-miss prospect. He was a first-round draft pick out of Ohio State, the son of former NFL running back Rob Carpenter, and a linebacker with size, speed, and pedigree. Dallas fans thought they were getting a defensive cornerstone when the Cowboys selected him 18th overall in 2006, but almost immediately, doubts surfaced. Carpenter struggled to adjust to the physical demands of the NFL, often criticized for shying away from contact and missing key assignments. His rookie year was forgettable, and over time he earned more snaps on special teams than on defense. Frustrated fans and teammates began to lose faith, and his reputation took a hit during a 2010 episode of Hard Knocks when lineman Mark Colombo mocked him with the nickname Barbie Carpenter after a failed practice play. That moment symbolized what his career had become. High expectations, little delivery. He was traded to the Rams, cut within a month, and bounced through Miami, Detroit, and New England, never securing a stable role. In 7 seasons, he started just 10 games, and his name became more associated with draft bust conversations than NFL success. Ironically, Carpenter found more stability after football as a broadcaster, where he built a respected career, breaking down the very game that once broke him. His story is the perfect closer to a list of legacies that prove a last name might get you in the door, but it won't keep you in the league. If you like this video, consider watching this next one, which YouTube thinks you are going to really love.